Martians landed?
Yes.
Wearing Prada suits?
Yes.
Drinking Henry Seltzer?
Yes.
Chewing juicy fruit?
Yes, and?
Your branding here?
Yes, brand.
Your message here?
Yes, and?
A verse about?
Yes.
Your product here?
Yes.
I'm Hirsch Redmond.
Yes, and?
I'm a message therapist.
Yes.
And I have a podcast.
Yes, brand.
That's right, that's it.
Yes.
We'll help you fix the world.
Yes.
Or your bottom line.
All right.
Your bottom line.
Get it. I get it. Welcome to the Yes Brand Podcast.
So I know what you're wondering is, who do I have in the hot seat with me today on Yes Brand? Well, I have Sid Mohasseb, who is an entrepreneur philosopher. And what that means is that he is a twice best-selling author. His books are called You Are Not Them, The Authentic Entrepreneur's Way, and The Caterpillar's Edge, Evolve Again, and Thrive in Business. He's a university professor at both engineering and business school, a two-time TED speaker, an advisor to Fortune 500 leaders, and an innovation thought leader who has built multiple companies and invested in many more. He's frequently a contributor to Forbes, to Time, Newsweek, USA Today, Fox, Independent, Foreign Policy, Globe, London School of Economics, and Harvard Business Review. And if that's not enough, he is now adding to his resume being a guest on Hirsch Redmond's Yes Brand podcast. So we are excited for you today, Sid, and we welcome you to the podcast.
And I am excited to be considered one of your guests, and it's been added to my resume.
Thank you. I'm glad we have. So tell us now, for the audience who's watching, they can see it. If they're listening, they cannot. What are the documents that you have affixed to your wall behind you, because they are voluminous, and I want to share with everyone what they're looking at?
They are a bunch of my articles that has a story to it. I had an assistant, and I have like over 100 articles in different places, as you mentioned.
I thought you were going to say I have over 100 assistants.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. So I have over 100 of these articles and things that people, that I've done over the years. And I had an assistant, and one day she said, "Well, Sid, we have to have these things at the office. We have to put them up on the wall. This is amazing." I said, "Okay, fine, do something." And she came back and she says, I see all of these boxes coming in from Amazon. And she says, "I bought these frames and we're going to put them up." I said, "Okay." And then boom, they're $35 a piece. Now you can multiply the number. So then she said, "Oh, I don't have enough, so I have to buy more because you have more articles coming out every week or whatever." So, but they have to look alike.
Yes, of course. Yes.
They can't be. So now I'm stuck with all these frames that are expensive, and
Well, I have a solution for you. I get
Yes,
it,
sir.
because I get it. Sometimes you have an overzealous assistant, and now what you need to do is, when someone approaches you about writing an article, you just add $35 to the fee. So, if the fee were $500,
I like the way you think, Hirsch.
yes.
I like the way you think.
You would say, yes, I charge $535 an article. And then they would say, "Well, why $535?" You say, "Well, you want to see it on the wall the next time I do an interview, don't you?"
Yeah.
They'll be like, "Okay, I guess so." So it's like it's a promotional fee. It's an added fee for promoting the fact that you wrote.
Consider that opinion.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so entrepreneur philosopher. It's not entrepreneur/philosopher. It's an entrepreneur philosopher, a philosopher of entrepreneurism. How would you describe the title? Because we're all about branding here.
Sure. So a few years back, some people started calling me entrepreneur philosopher on various places, and I was on TV or radio or whatever. And the reasoning that they provided me, because I asked the same question, and says, because you look at entrepreneurship in an entirely different way. And it's more about the mindset and about your personal philosophy than it is about how other people define it, which is about profits and money and fast talking and salesmanship and all that kind of stuff. So the way I define entrepreneurship, which is different, is and it's I should give the credit to a Frenchman in about 1700s who defined the first time defined entrepreneurship as an entrepreneur is someone who has something who wants to exchange that with something of higher value. About 50 years later, they added the risk element to it. That is, someone who has something who wants to exchange it with something of higher value, knowing that there is risk, that you may not get it. You may want it, but you may not get it. Now, if you notice, there is no definition of what it is that you have. It says you have something. It could be your time. It could be your idea. It could be a product. It could be your service. It could be anything that you have.
Yeah.
And of something, an exchange with something of higher value. And it doesn't define what higher value is because the individual defines what higher value is. Elon Musk may define it as money, trillions and trillions of dollars of money. Somebody else may define it as satisfaction. Somebody may try to cure poverty. Somebody is looking for equality. Somebody is looking for, depending on what you consider higher value, you would then have this exchange that happens. And I believe, and there's studies to prove it, that this is a gene that's been developed in us about 500,000 years ago. So we're all entrepreneurs. We just don't realize what we have. We don't understand what we want to exchange it with, and we look at risk as the evil, and don't know how to navigate risk, not manage it, navigate it, because we take risks every day we step out of our home. The risk is low, but there is risk. Every time you get on a plane, there is risk. Every time you drive, there is risk. But it's a matter of if you live in California, there is risk of earthquake. If you live in Florida, there's a risk of hurricanes. So we all face risk. We don't know how to navigate the risk, and we don't know what we have, and we don't know what to exchange it with. So philosophically, we're all entrepreneurs. The question becomes, how do we go through this exchange? How do we realize what we have? How do we build now our own philosophy of how to approach this? How do we view risk as a pilot? How do we build our oceanness, which is the ecosystem? And how do we see fear? How do we see nervousness? How do we build our authentic leadership structure?
Well, risk, I think, it is a very important word when we're talking about entrepreneurs because it is probably the thing that separates an entrepreneur from a business person that is working in a business, working for a company, working for a corporation. Yeah, there's a certain degree of risk every day that they're going to get fired or that the company will close, but their role is usually not related so much to the risks. They are well,
So
go ahead.
let me challenge that. Let me
Okay.
challenge that. My definition is we are all entrepreneurs, even if we look for a corporate, except what we're changing and exchanging with something better. We believe we're there. We spend our time. We decide how much of creativity and innovation we bring to the table. Do we think about the job at 3 o'clock in the morning or not? Yes, we have managed our risk. We have taken certain risks to exchange our time and our effort and innovation and creativity and productivity or whatever you want to call it, we're giving. And in exchange, we get some salary, and we spend that money. We spend that either to take our kids to Disneyland, or to buy a home, or rent a place and get a boat. We decide what we exchange it to, or we spend our time mostly at the church because we don't want to be, or we leave early at work because we don't want to be necessarily the CEO. We just want to spend time with our kids when they're playing baseball. So we decide what we have and we decide what we change it with. The fact that you have a business or not have a business is a choice in what you want to exchange with what. That is not a triggering event of you being an
Yes.
entrepreneur. it's the arena, it's the game that you like to play, it's where you want to express your entrepreneurship at.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an assessment of value. In other words, it may not be worth it to us. Our time may be more valuable to us than the money that we might earn in a higher value position according to someone else. So it really is just a matter of degrees and assessment of what we're willing to do. Now, when you think about the psychology of people who prefer higher risk exchanges, right? Tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are on that.
So the first thing, and you mentioned I've invested in many companies, I've built many companies, I've advised many, I'm on a board of many companies over the years, I've done a lot of stuff. And almost 100%, almost 100%. I mean, maybe there's one I can't think of it. Those who are doing what they're doing as a conventional entrepreneur or starting a business in some form or shape, if they are looking for more money, they fail. If they're doing it for profit, they fail.
Okay.
If they're doing it for a reason that depends on their satisfaction and what they, some may be philanthropic, some may be wanting to change the world, some may be wanting a better life for their kids, some maybe want a legacy, some think that there's this thing in their being that needs to be expressed as an innovation or creativity. Those people have a higher likelihood of success than the people that just look for the profit. And because the profit and revenue is an outcome, not an input.
So now all the people who are cost consultants, who are, involved in the mitigation of risk within an organization, everyone whose job it is to focus on revenue as a success metric, right? So what does that
So
say?
what's their role? Huh? Is that what
Yeah,
you're telling me? So here's the thing. Let me ask you a few questions and then I'll respond to that. They
Sure.
play a big role, but
Yeah.
not the role that you may think.
Okay.
Here's the first question. Who buys any services that you have? If you have a phone that you sell, you have a printer you sell, you have a cup of coffee you sell, you have a home you sell, whatever you sell, it doesn't matter what it is, your consulting services, who makes the decision to buy?
The person who wants the product or service.
So you have no control in the decision
Right.
making of making that revenue. It is entirely 100% at the hands of
Of
somebody
the
else,
customer. Yeah.
of the customer. Okay, so you don't make any decisions. So we have a
Right.
sales force, but all we're doing is if we communicate the right set of reasoning. And remember, I'm saying everybody is an entrepreneur. So the buyer is an entrepreneur. He
Uh-huh.
sees, I am exchanging what I have, which is a few bucks or a few million bucks, with what is of higher value. A home that my kids can play in the backyard, a cup of coffee that wakes me up and I can go to a meeting, a phone that takes better pictures. I have something, which is my money, and I will exchange it with something of higher value to who? To me. To me. Your job is only to demonstrate that you are giving that person, A, you have to realize who that person is. B, you have to realize the reasoning. And C, you have to provide that exchange that they are looking for, the value that they're looking for. If you give them the value they're looking for, they will buy. They will make the decision. Okay. Now let me give you another one.
Yes.
You think you give people a job.
No.
They take a job based on their own reasoning. You say, here's the job description. Okay. And you expect certain level of productivity or commitment. But you know who accepts it? They accept it.
Yeah.
And they accept it based on their own reasonings. They say, I have to pay rent. I don't like this guy as an asshole, but I'll take it. I'll take the job because I have to
Yeah.
pay for the rent. This guy has a better benefit than the other guy, and I have a mother who's sick. This guy can give me options, and that guy couldn't give me options. This guy looks good on the resume because it's good for it. This guy helps me go to California. The other one doesn't. And I want to go to California to be with my girlfriend. They decide. If they think at 3 o'clock in the morning to be innovative and creative and add value, they decide what level of productivity is the right exchange with you. You can yell, you can scream, you can put KPIs from here to Timbuktu, but they decide. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, are they with you or are they someplace else? At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, are they with you? Are they productive? They may take the job because they want to work from home. Why? Because they have a dog. They decide why. And we think we give them a job. We think we define productivity. Now, if we look at what they want and we give them what they want, and now we can't satisfy everybody on the face of the earth. And that's how the culture is built. If we have a culture of people who have this, who think about 3 o'clock in the morning and look at the world that way, and we've given them the satisfaction that they need, they will work, not because of me, not because of the company, because of who they are. They are productive. So this is the thing that I always challenge. We think we empower people. People, employees have the inherent power to be creative. They have the power to be productive or not to be productive. They have the power. We don't give them anything. We don't inject them anything. We have to facilitate that process for them to feel that they would like to exercise their power because we have a shared vision or there's something in it for them. Now, the partners do the same thing. Your partner is a guy, is a lady, who's the purchasing agent, who's the one who makes sure that you get your products or your supply chain products on time with the right quality at the right price. If you don't pay them right enough, they don't prioritize you because you couldn't satisfy their need. They would push you down if the value that they expected, and they look at, oh, who's the client? Oh, Yes Brand, that's a good thing. I want to put it on my site because Yes Brand, so they may give you a better deal. You both are
Yes.
Republicans or Democrats. You both love baseball. That's why they give you a deal. I mean, it's a fact of life. They make a decision to provide you with this product at this time, with this service at this price. You think you negotiated something, but at the end, who made that decision? They made the decision. You have no control over that decision. So the investors are the same, and the society is the same. We have an exchange with 5 pillars of the organization, and it is based on this idea that we're all entrepreneurs and we have to satisfy what value we get. The job of a company is to figure out the reasons that people make those decisions. So a salesman, his only job is to be able to provide the right value to the people. Now, if they're bamboozling people with fast words and funky promises, guess what? You just lost the loyalty of that person, which is more worth it, more than the first money they gave you. So what is in the middle is the stuff that makes sense. So the cost-cutting measure, of course it's important because there is an exchange between these people. If I give too much money to my employees, I don't have enough margin for my customers, I can't pay my investor. The reasons are constantly changing and in flux. The people that we have today that are buying your products are not the same people that were buying your product 5 years ago, 3 years ago. The people that we employ today have a different expectation of life and balance and all that sort of stuff, working from home, than the people of the same age 5 years ago. These pillars, these 5 things are constantly changing. They're constantly changing. Then the job of an organization is to figure out the reasons and provide the value that triggers an exchange. And then the outcome is profit and revenue. The job of a cost-cutting guy is to make sure that he doesn't cut too much of this thing or too much of that thing. He doesn't compromise the delivery. He doesn't compromise the security of the client. He doesn't compromise the privacy. He doesn't compromise any one of those stuff while he's minimizing this so that the best value is still delivered and margins are maintained.
So let me ask you this.
You're not
Pulling
going to
back,
ask me what I've been smoking, right, Terry?
no, I can see. I see it on I see you have a plant behind you. I'm assuming it's a cannabis plant. Can't just be there for decoration. No, I want to ask you, so pulling back a little bit, what is the difference between, in essence, what do you think is the difference between the employee, someone who's working in an organization and they have a certain role, and the person who is, let's say, the CEO of the company?
Excellent question. The role of a CEO in what I just explained is a conductor, is a harmonizer of these reasonings. A CEO is a harmonizer who facilitates through vision, through understanding of the reasons, through understanding these give and take that happens between these elements, as a conductor of a symphony.
Okay.
Okay, so let's look at this. So I have a real beef with this work-life balance. I think it's whole life balance. We
Yeah.
can't. I mean, I work somewhere, and what, you expect me to go to work and not think about my kid who's sick? It's impossible. I'm human. I have to think about him. And
Yeah.
you expect me to have an 8 hour, and when I come home, then I don't think about my job. Then I'm compromising my future because I could have great ideas to exchange things with better things. And you want me to close and not? No, it's a whole life balance. An organization works holistically. All these pieces
Yes.
work together to create value. You want profit, to generate profit. All of this stuff has to work together. You have to
Yeah.
have the right level of investment for working capital, the right level of the right level, the right customer, the right employee to generate that value, and the right society to live in, and the partners that are helping you make this magic. So it's not like in a symphony, it's not like you play the drums for 5 minutes and then play the guitar for 5 minutes and the
Yeah.
violin for 5 minutes. The beauty of it is that they're all blended in, and it's not 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. It's not a balance, it's a harmony, and that's different. That's very, very different.
So that's the role of the CEO.
That's
And the
the role
role
of the
of
CEO.
the rank and file employee, let's call it.
Depending on where they sit in the chain of command, they're an employee, so they have they have that exchange formula anyways. And their job is, if I say, see, here's one argument. In a lot of companies, we have KPIs that we measure the outcome. How much money did we make? And we assume because we made X amount of dollars, our strategy is right. We could have made, I mean, I've had this argument with CEOs of Fortune 100 companies. They'll say, oh, our plan this year is to increase sales by 10%. I'll say, why not 12%?
Yeah.
Because I don't think we can make it. Why don't you think we can make it? Well, because we made it 9% last year. Okay, so why did you do 9% last year? So
Yeah.
we measure the outcomes, not we measure outcomes. We don't measure the strategy. We don't measure, are we fulfilling these value exchanges? Are we doing this? Are we pushing back? So when we say, oh, the customer is king, here's my point. No king can manage a country without the support of the rank and file. So yes, customer is important. Their value exchange is important. They hand you the money, but the other guys, the rest of this thing is creating what they exchange with.
Yeah.
So
And
let's
the
talk
C
about brand. Let's talk about brand.
Yeah,
Brand
yeah.
is one of those things that people exchange with. A lot of people exchange their loyalty and their money with Apple because they like the brand. They have an affinity. It has a character. It gives them something that they feel good about. People buy, I don't know, a Ferrari because it gives them a certain kind of feeling, not because it's a means of transportation. They buy a Honda over a Toyota over a Jaguar, a Jaguar over yes, price is important, but if they get a Volvo, they feel safer. They think it's a safe car. The brand represents one of those dimensions of exchange. It's one of those dimensions.
Yeah. A brand provides them with a frame of reference for the value that they're purchasing, and it makes them feel safe, not only in the sense of actual safety in a Volvo. It makes them feel safe in that a brand name indicates to them a sense of consistency, a sense of value, delivery, all of that,
Absolutely.
all of those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely. So that is what I'm saying. It's
yeah,
It's a bundle of satisfaction that drives that exchange to the customer. The same brand works for your employees. People want to work for Google because if they have Google on their resume forever, they're a Google guy. They can raise money if they want to start a business. They can get easier another job. And they think that gives them innovation and creativity. Oh, if I work for Google, people are going to think I'm a creative, smart guy. That's why they want to work there.
That brings up an interesting point, which is that when you're an entrepreneur, sometimes you go your own way. There are entrepreneurs, of course, who've worked at Google and Apple and IBM and so forth. But what about the independent thinker who says, I'm going to buck the system. I'm going to be a maverick and go outside the lines, which means I don't want to work for anyone else. You know, I have my vision and I'm going to suffer for it, motor through. What do you say? What impression do you have?
Didn't Steve Jobs did that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you can do it, but hey, you have to have people who trust you, and you have to have people who make the decision to buy from you, and you have to have the people who respect you and build that vision for you for some reason. Their exchanges. So Steve Jobs, for example, was a brilliant, brilliant guy, no doubt about it. But I hear, and I've talked to people who directly worked for him, that he was an asshole. He was very
Yeah.
difficult to work with. But people see, this is the exchange. This is the exchange. The people who worked for him didn't care that he was an asshole. They cared that he was brilliant. They cared that they was part of this organization. They cared that they were building something bigger. Right? So let me give you another exchange idea.
Okay.
So the people who worked for SpaceX, their exchanges, I am exploring the universe. We're going to go to Mars. They work 100 hours a week for that message. Now, the same leader went to another company called Twitter and tried to apply the same exchange with these guys. It did not work. They do not give him the same productivity, the same care, the same ideas, the same commitment than the people at SpaceX does. Same leader, two situations, different people, different exchange value, and one worked and one isn't.
So the question in my mind is when we're assessing value and we say, oh, well, you know, Steve Jobs was a genius, but he was an asshole. And there are some people who would say, well, that's the, you know, what people have said. But let's just say someone is an asshole but brings tremendous value. What is the value in your experience of being an asshole in general? In other words,
So
what
that's
is the,
a see, that's a
is it an
choice.
asset in and of itself?
That's a choice. It's with all due respect, Hirsch, you may choose to be in an abusive relation in a marriage. You may enjoy it. I may not. So
Yeah.
this is the individual responsibility and authority and capability and choice that people decide to operate in a particular environment better than in other environments. Would I like to be one? No. Can I be one? No. Would I like the people to work for me to be one? No. But do I question the people who are? No, that's who they are. And they get people around them. And yes, sometimes I have seen people who are assholes get ahead because we don't, in general, people do not realize that they are an entrepreneur and they have every choice to make to get more and to exchange what they have with something better. When people don't realize that they have more and they can exchange with something more, then they put up with any nonsense.
And that goes back to what you were saying in the beginning, which is who makes the decision?
Oh,
The customer does. So if you have an asshole at the top of the food chain, the customers put him there. The
yeah.
customers
So
put that.
let's
Yeah.
see that. I just gave you the Elon Musk example and the two companies. Let's expand that. 83% of the revenue for Twitter is poof, gone. The company he paid for $44 billion is valued at 9 if he's lucky. Okay, so people decided that I don't want my ad next to this ad or next to this thing, and I don't. Now, let's look at this thing. People started quitting Tesla. Why? Because during the same week, that he dropped. He said, I have competition in China. Our price is too high. He dropped the prices by 10%. Problem number one, people bought the company last week. Bought the
Product,
car.
yeah.
They bought their car last week. The car hasn't been delivered to them. Next week, the car is 10% cheaper. So what happened? I don't care. You need to be competitive in the global market. One. Two, he cut 10% of the people of their 10% of the jobs. Same duration within the same 2-3 weeks, right? The same time, he filed a lawsuit to get $56 billion from Tesla for his compensation. That's not a harmonizer. So you'll see now his sales has come down. This quarter, I don't know, but the eighth quarter before that, out of the 8 quarters, 7 out of 8 he has too much production. Couldn't sell the car.
The thing is,
Now,
I think that we
is
don't.
he brilliant? I'm not questioning his brilliance. Don't get me wrong. I'm not
Right, right.
questioning his brilliance. I'm not a socialist. I'm not against money. I'm a capitalist to my core. I mean, you can see
Yeah.
my resume, what I've done. But what I'm saying is inconsistencies in delivering who you are will have consequences. Now, would some people love him because he's now on the other side and supporting Trump and doing all that? Of course, a lot of people are going to think more aligned with him, and that's perfectly fine. Is the Hollywood crowd now not buying Tesla anymore? Yeah, there's statistics that shows that. So you choose what you exchange for what. And he has chosen a new path, and good for him. Now, is he an asshole? Maybe. But people who work for him are 4 or 5 of the executives of Tesla quit last week. Why? I don't know.
Question
I'm not
that,
in their shoes.
yeah, I know. Well, a question that comes to mind is on which side of the equation is the emotion most readily found? So, in other words, people who may sit here and say, well, I don't like Elon Musk because of this, that, the other thing irritates me. I don't like his ethics. I don't like his attitude. I don't like what he's doing. What he's doing is wrong, or bad for the employees, bad for the customer.
Or on the
But
other side, they may love him.
or on the other side, they may love him. And the question is, do they love him because of the business, do they love him because of the maverick attitude? Do they love him because of the bottom line financially, that he's the richest person in the world? Do they, what is there a type of person that is driven by emotion versus money, or is there a type of person that values money as emotionally as the other person values, let's say, kindness?
So let me use the harmonizing environment again. We
Yeah,
may say this is logical that I do A, B, and C, but we're truly emotionally attached to the decision that we make. You can't, this is a soup. In this soup, you have carrots and celery, and it's all in there. It's a mix. It's already a dish that you're eating. So our emotions are always involved. We may or may not recognize it. Some people want money. Why do they want money? Because they want power. Why do they want power? So that when they're walking on the street, people say hello to them and they respect them and they're invited to this or that or that or that. They want to hold a Gucci bag or a Louis Vuitton bag because when they go to it's not because the functionality of a bag, you can hold your stuff in it. A $10 bag does the same thing. They want to have the money so that they can get the bag, so that when they walk into that room, people say, she's made it. Emotions is a part of any
of course.
situation.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm going to go back to your area domain of expertise. It's a part of brand. A
Yeah.
brand is the characteristics of a person who ignites emotions as well as functionality, as well as trust, as well as security. It's who I am. It's who I am. So I always use the example, when people say early stage companies and they say, oh, we have to first build a brand. No, you don't have a brand to protect your brand. You have to
Right,
build a
right.
brand first, and that's walking the walk, doing the talk. So let's say I walk in, you and I meet, and you invite me to your home, and we met when I had a little tie on and a little bit, and we talked business, and then you invite me to your home, and I come in with a guitar, and guess what? That morning, I colored my hair blue. Okay, so you say, wait a minute, this is not the same person I saw this morning, right? And then the next time we meet, I begin to talk about what's going on in the, math as a mathematician, and I become a nerd and I act differently. Right? So, would you trust me? No. You'll say, who's this guy? I don't know who he is. I don't know who he is. A brand is the character of a company, which attracts people, attracts customers, attracts employees, attracts management, defines who we are, defines how we act.
Yeah. It's this the phrase that comes to mind is that a brand is not good or bad. It's defined. In other words, something is defined well enough, it's branded. In other words, you can't say, is Coke a good brand? Is Coke a good brand or a decent brand? And I think we fall into that a lot because people will say, for the last 10 years, people have said on about brands and products, you can't sit on the sidelines anymore. Everybody has to have an opinion. Everybody has to. Well, Coca-Cola doesn't need to have an opinion. It's not relevant to its product. But if you ask, is it a good brand? The answer would be, well, how well defined is it? Is it so well defined that you can visualize Coke and recognize Coke and taste it in every sense of the word better than you can Pepsi? Is
So,
it,
so here's the thing. The
you
thing is,
know,
you use the word that's very important, near and dear to me. It's the frame of reference. So, what
yeah,
is good depends on the audience that feels this is good or bad. You know, it's well defined because when I taste Coke, I enjoy it, and when I taste Pepsi, I don't. So that's a fact.
yeah,
Somebody else is the opposite. They like Pepsi and they don't like Coke. So
right,
I love Diet Coke personally.
yeah,
I hate Diet Pepsi. I just can't stand it. I don't like
yeah.
it. So for me, that has tainted the brand of Pepsi.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally
Now,
get that.
is
And
it that you like the opposite? So for you, it's a good brand. For me, it's not a good brand. I like what how you mentioned it. It's well defined. When something is well defined, you can measure things with it. You can trust it. When it's not
yeah,
well defined, you can't. It's watery. It's not trustworthy.
and as much as it's subjective, I believe that people who prefer Coke and people who prefer Pepsi, the only difference is that the people who prefer Coke care what it tastes like. People who prefer Pepsi don't care because I was thinking about that in terms of myself when I'm on an airplane or whatever, and they only serve one kind, and they say, and you go or you're in another country, wherever it may be, and I say, can I get a Coke Zero? And they go, is Pepsi Diet Pepsi or Pepsi Zero or whatever okay? And and if I care, I would say no. And if I don't care in that moment, I would say yes. But it's because they both taste the same. It's because when I care, I drink Coke, and when I don't care, I drink Pepsi. And
Do you know the value of the brand is when they have established that caring? Because then
yes,
you are loyal. Because then you pay more. Because then
yes,
you ask for it. Because then you are the person who would tell the other one, let's buy some Diet Coke.
right. Well, if they don't have it, if they literally don't have it, you would say, well, then I don't want anything.
Then
I
I
don't
don't
want
want
it.
anything.
I'll have water. I don't want anything at all. And that's true. Brand loyalty does extend to that. I think it's been very fascinating, Sid, because the psychology of what goes into all of the things that we establish as customers, because we've established over this conversation, who has the power? The customer. Who is the customer? Every one of us is a customer. Who is the seller? Every one of us. Who's the entrepreneur? Every one of us. And so, does anyone really have more power than anyone else?
Excellent
Final
question.
question.
Excellent question. It depends.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends on the situation. It depends. So I used to have a company in late 90s. Okay, so I'm aging myself. If for those people who don't see my face, they
Yeah.
may have thought that I was younger. I'm old. So and I had a company, and we had a presentation. I'll tell you the same two examples of this. The first thing was we were running out of money. We had no money. Okay. So I got everybody, there was 10 or 12 people, and I got them in a room and I said, I cannot meet payroll. I've tried, we've raised money, and we're stuck. I cannot meet payroll. I understand if you want to get a job. I understand if you have a family. I understand. But I like you to stay. And you know how many left? Zero. Fast forward. We're doing this, fast forward. We had a meeting with CNN to present what we were doing. It was 7 o'clock in the morning, our time, 10 o'clock, East Coast in Atlanta. They were with their headquarters. And I got up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to review the presentation that I was making as the CEO. And I looked at this, and boy, the numbers were wrong. This was wrong. So I sent 5 emails to 5 of my team members. And I said, who's up? Are you up? Do you know how many of them responded? All
Fun.
5. And says, what do I need, Sid? What do you need? Now, that I did not put a gun to their head. It wasn't because of how much money I paid them. It was because they were a team. They cared. It was right. That kind of a loyalty, that kind of a relationship cannot be bought. Cannot be bought. So your question was, who has the power? It depends. At that moment when I said, hey, I don't have money, they had the power.
Yeah.
At the moment when I said at 4 o'clock in the morning, they exercised their power. At the moment when I sold the company and wrote each and every one of them a big check, I had the power.
Yeah.
Right? So it changes. Sometimes the investor has the power. Sometimes the key is this idea of harmonizing. If you push one element too far, you get backtrack. You push the employees too far, $9 billion of loss from GE and Ford and so forth 6 months ago because they made $20 billion and their investors made a lot of money, but they didn't care about the employees. If you don't care about any one of these 5 elements, you're gonna get yourself into trouble. You may do good at times. Now, I have people, companies that have trusted me and they've believed in this line of argument. And one of them just completely announced, he has about 300-400 people, announced our company, we are not a company, we are a platform. And we have these 5 pillars, and they're equally important. It's not the customer is king, it's not the employee is king, nobody is king.
Yeah.
They're all important. We take care of all of them. And he has increased his margins and revenue in the past year significantly, almost doubled. Significantly. It works because that is at the roots of entrepreneurship. It's at the roots of a company. A company is there to deliver value. And if you do what the mission of the company is, without the hoopla of let's have salespeople and maneuver them this way or that, let's cut the cost here, let's not give them this, because I'm going to be judged at the first quarter or the second quarter for the profits. If you do what you're meant to do, and you do it consistently, and you change as the reasoning for those pillars change, you'll make money.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Because people are exchanging for their own reasons. They want to have your product. People work for you because they want to. They are productive because they want to, not because of you, because of them.
Yeah. I love it. Sid Mohasseb, where can people find you if they want to tap into any of the many things that you are engaged in, find your books?
Sure. They obviously they can search me, Sid Mohasseb. They'll find a lot of articles, a lot of videos, a lot of stuff. But my email is also sid@mohasseb.com. They can get to me. I am doing something new within the next couple of months, which is an academy, which is about a collection of things that focuses on small little videos, small little things that are focused on the mindset and this idea of entrepreneurship and this idea of who we are and how we. It's not a motivational thing, but I aim to provoke, not motivate,
Yeah.
because I don't believe I can motivate anybody. I think those people who are motivational this and motivational that, nobody but you can motivate you. But you have to be provoked with something. You have to see something that is worthwhile for you to pursue. So, and we're having the first 1,000 people that would be sponsored, and they can get in essentially for free. For because this is a march for me. This is a mission for me. So if people are interested in being, on the waiting list for that, send me an email and I'll put you in touch with the right people, and that would be great. We'd love to have you.
Alright.
If you liked the show,
Yes, and?
it worked for you,
Yes, then?
subscribe and leave a
Yes, friend.
5-star review.
Yes, friend.
Tell all your friends.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Did I make it clear?
Yes, friend.
Get your branding on.
Yes,